Is there a problem, officer? I was just heading home.
All right, bro. License and registration, please. Do you know why I pulled you over tonight?
You need to understand the seriousness of the situation, sir.
I do, officer. But I haven't done anything wrong.
The red and blue lights cut across the empty street like a wound reopening. Marcus Hale slows his car, heart steady, breath controlled the way it always is before a race. Midnight asphalt, closed storefronts, the faint hum of streetlights buzzing overhead. He checks the mirror, hands visible, window down. He does everything right. The officer approaches slowly, too slowly. Step out of the vehicle. Marcus hesitates for half a second, not in defiance but calculation. His calf still aches from training. Cold air bites his skin as he steps onto the pavement. Gravel crunches beneath his shoes. The officer's hand never leaves his holster. "Where you headed at this hour?" the officer asks. "Home," Marcus says. Neutral. Practiced. The flashlight sweeps his body, lingers too long on his shoulders, his legs, his build. Not curiosity but suspicion. The beam flicks to the trunk release. "What do you do for work?" the officer asks. Marcus answers. "I'm an athlete." The officer snorts. "Sound sharp enough to cut." "Sure you are." The words land heavier than the night air. Marcus feels it then, the familiar tightening in his chest. Not fear. Recognition. The quiet knowledge that this moment has already been decided for him. A second patrol car pulls in behind. Doors open. Radios crackle. The street feels smaller now. Closing. The officer steps closer, voice low. Face the car. Hands on the hood. Marcus complies, and as cold metal meets his palms, a siren wails somewhere far off, rising, stretching, like the starting gun of a race he never agreed to run. The lights hit first. Red. Blue. Red again, splintering across the windshield, flashing against Marcus Hale's eyes just as he signals and eases his car to the curb. He exhales once through his nose. Low. Controlled. The way his coach taught him when his pulse spiked before the final lap. He turns off the engine, puts the keys on the dashboard, rolls the window down halfway. The night smells like oil and dust. Somewhere a siren wails, distant and unconnected, but his shoulders still tighten at the sound. The officer takes his time getting out of the cruiser. Marcus watches in the side mirror. The deliberate pace, the squared shoulders, the hand resting near the holster, casual enough to pretend it isn't intentional. "Hands where I can see them." "Yes, sir." His voice comes out even. Neutral. He places both hands on the steering wheel, fingers spread wide. The officer leans in slightly, flashlight slicing across Marcus's face. His chest, the inside of the car. "You know why I pulled you over?" "No, sir." "You were moving a little fast." Marcus knows he wasn't. He also knows that saying so would change nothing. License and registration. Marcus reaches slowly, narrating every movement the way he was taught. Wallet. Glove compartment. Paper sliding against paper. The officer watches like he's waiting for something to go wrong. "Where you headed this late?" "Home." "From where?" "Training." The officer pauses, tilts his head. The flashlight beam lingers on Marcus's arms, his shoulders straining against the fabric of his jacket. "Training for what?" Marcus meets his eyes. Not challenging, not submissive, just direct. "I'm an athlete." The officer exhales sharply, almost a laugh. "Out running drills at midnight." He shakes his head. "Step out of the vehicle." Marcus's jaw tightens for half a second, then relaxes. He opens the door and steps onto the cold pavement. The air bites through his clothes. He keeps his hands visible, just like always. "Turn around." He does. Hands on the hood. The metal is colder than he expects. He spreads his palms flat. Feels the vibration of his own pulse in his fingertips. "What kind of athlete?" the officer asks behind him. "Track." "Uh-huh." The officer pats him down. Not rough enough to justify complaint. not gentle enough to be accidental. The search lingers, waist, legs, pockets, long after it's clear Marcus is unarmed. You carrying anything I should know about? No, sir. The radio crackles. Another car pulls in behind them, tires hissing as they stop. Doors open. A step. Marcus stares at the hood of his car, sees his own reflection warped in the metal, knows better than to turn around. Why you driving through this neighborhood? The officer asks. I live here. Address. Marcus gives it. The officer hums quietly, unconvinced. Funny. Don't usually see cars like this around here. Marcus doesn't respond. Silence stretches, thickens. He feels it pressing against his spine. Got a job? The officer asks. Yes, sir. What is it? I run. The officer steps closer. Marcus smells coffee on his breath. Something sour underneath. You expect me to believe that? Marcus swallows. The words rise, medals, meets, rankings, but he holds them back. He shouldn't have to prove his worth to stand on a public street. Yes, Marcus says. Controlled. The officer straightens. His voice shifts, colder now. Face away from me. Marcus complies. Hands behind your back. The world narrows to sound. Velcro tearing. Metal clicking open. Am I being detained? Marcus asks. For now. For what reason? The cuffs close around his wrists. Obstructing. The word lands heavy. Meaningless. Absolute. Marcus closes his eyes for half a second. He counts his breaths. 1, 2, 3. He refuses to give the night what it wants from him. As the officer guides him toward the cruiser, Marcus catches a glimpse of a phone raised across the street. A shadow watching, recording. The officer opens the back door. Watch your head. Marcus ducks. The door slams shut. Inside the car, the world goes quiet, sealed behind glass and steel. The red and blue lights continue their silent rhythm, painting his knees, his hands, his future in alternating colors. Somewhere far away, a starting gun echoes in his memory. And Marcus realizes this race is no longer about speed. The holding room smells like disinfectant and old coffee. Marcus sits on a hard plastic bench bolted to the wall, wrists free now but still marked. Faint red lines circling his skin like reminders that don't fade easily. The room hums with fluorescent light. No windows. No clock. Just a camera in the corner, unblinking. Door opens. The officer from the stop steps in, tablet in hand. His posture has changed. Message. More routine. Like the danger has passed now that Marcus is contained. Stand up. Marcus does. The officer gestures toward the wall. Face forward. Marcus obeys. Camera flashes. Once. Name. Marcus Hale. Date of birth. He answers. The officer types. Types again. You got any priors, Marcus? No. Ever been arrested? No. Beep. Ever had contact with law enforcement? Marcus almost laughs. Almost. Yes. The officer doesn't look up. 4. Marcus chooses his words carefully. Traffic stops. Like this. The officer hums, non-committal. Proles. You were stopped for speeding, he says, tone flat. You refused to answer basic questions. That raised suspicion. I answered everything you asked. The officer finally looks at him. Is steady. You hesitated. Marcus meets his gaze. I followed instructions. Another pause. The officer taps the screen, then sets the tablet down. You're being released. No charges. Marcus exhales slowly. Relief tries to rise and fails. The damage has already been done. Am I free to go? Marcus asks. In a minute. The officer steps out. The door closes. Minutes stretch. Then stretch again. When the door opens this time, it's a different man. Older. Sergeant stripes on his sleeve. He doesn't offer a handshake. You can grab your belongings, the sergeant says. You're good to leave. Marcus retrieves his wallet, keys, phone. Everything is there. Nothing missing. Still he checks twice. Why was I detained? Marcus asks. The sergeant shrugs slightly. Officer discretion. For what? Suspicious behavior. Marcus lets the silence sit. The sergeant shifts his weight. You're free to file a complaint if you feel you were treated unfairly. The words are smooth. Practiced. A door painted on a wall. Marcus nods once. Thank you. Outside, dawn is starting to bleed into the sky. Pale gray turning blue. His car sits where he left it. Lone. Innocent. He unlocks the door. Doesn't start the engine. His phone buzzes. Sister. Where are you? He types back. My way. Another message immediately. Sister, you okay? Marcus stares at the screen. Deletes. Types again. The lie feels heavy but lighter than the truth. The training facility is quiet when Marcus arrives. Too quiet. Early morning usually belongs to grinders and insomniacs. But today the track is empty. Coach Reynolds stands near the bleachers, arms crossed, stopwatch hanging loose around his neck. He spots Marcus immediately. You're late. Marcus nods. I know. Coach studies him. Sees something off. He always does. What happened? Marcus hesitates, then speaks. Got stopped. Coach's jaw tightens. Again. Yeah. For what? Marcus shrugs. Existing. Coach exhales through his nose. Did they hold you? For a while. Silence. Coach shakes his head. You want to talk about it? Marcus looks down at his shoes. The track curves away in front of him. Perfect, smooth, endless. Not right now. Coach nods. Doesn't push. Warm up slow. We'll see where you're at. Marcus jogs onto the track. His legs feel heavy. Not injured. Not tired. Just resistant. Like something inside him is pulling backward. He starts his first lap. Pace controlled. Breath measured. By the second lap, his thoughts creep in. Flashlight. The laugh. Sure you are. His stride shortens. He stops near the curve, hands on his knees, chest rising fast. Coach watches from a distance. Says nothing. Marcus straightens. Forces himself to keep going. Later that afternoon, his sister Lena sits across from him at their kitchen table. Coffee untouched. Sharp. They detained you, she asks. Yes. For how long? Does it matter? Yes, she snaps. It always matters. Marcus leans back. No charges. That's not the point. Lena pushes her phone toward him. I looked it up. That officer's name. There are complaints. Marcus stiffens. How many? Enough. He rubs his face with both hands. I don't want this right now. Marcus, you can't keep pretending this doesn't follow you. I have trials in 6 weeks. And what happens if it happens again, she asks. What if next time there's no camera across the street? Marcus doesn't answer. Lena's voice softens. You don't owe them silence. Marcus meets her eyes. I owe myself focus. She nods slowly. Those aren't opposites. That night, Marcus lies awake staring at the ceiling. Every sound outside feels louder. Every passing car pulls his attention. His phone lights up. Unknown number. He lets it ring, then stops. A voicemail notification appears. He listens. Calm, professional voice. Marcus Hale, this is Jordan Klein from the Metro Sports Journal. I heard you were involved in a police incident last night. I'd like to talk. Marcus deletes the message. He turns onto his side. Closes his eyes. But the image won't leave him. Red and blue light washing over his hands. Over his name. Over everything he's built. Somewhere in the city, paperwork is being filed. Boxes checked. Narratives finalized. And Marcus understands something clearly for the first time. What happened to him wasn't a mistake. It was procedure. The track feels different now. Same surface. Same markings. Same quiet stretch of dawn air. But Marcus senses it immediately. The way you notice a limp even when the pain is dull. His body moves, but his mind lags half a step behind, watching itself run. Set. He settles into the blocks. Fingers spread. Bikes digging in. Go. Marcus explodes forward, legs driving, arms pumping. Muscle memory taking over where thought fails. The first 50 meters are clean. Efficient. By the second curve something slips. His breathing tightens too early. His stride fractures, barely perceptible, but Coach Reynolds sees it. Again, Coach calls out. Marcus jogs back. Sweat beads along his temple though the morning is cool. You're holding back, Coach says. I'm not. Coach doesn't argue. Then you're distracted. Marcus wipes his face with his shirt. Says nothing. They run it again. And again. By the fourth rep, Marcus stumbles slightly on the curve. Catches himself. Oh. I'm good, Marcus says, though his pulse is racing too fast. Coach steps closer. Lowers his voice. Your body's here. Your head isn't. Marcus straightens. I can push through. That's not what I asked. Marcus looks past him at the empty stands. Let's finish. Coach studies him for a long second, then nods. One more. Marcus runs. Forces speed. Forces control. Crosses the line with a time that would impress anyone else. Coach clicks the stopwatch. Doesn't smile. You're a second off your normal pace. Marcus shrugs. It's early. Coach pockets the watch. It's not the clock I'm worried about. In the locker room, the noise is louder than usual. Teammates talking, laughing, music playing from someone's phone. Yo, Marcus. Jamal calls. You see the rankings update. Marcus shakes his head. Nah. You still top 3. Locked for trials. Marcus nods. The words don't land the way they should. Jamal lowers his voice. Heard about last night. Marcus freezes for half a second. From who? Coach mentioned it. You okay? I'm fine. Jamal studies him. That's not an answer. Marcus pulls his bag off the bench. I don't want to be that guy, man. That guy? Jamal asks. The one everyone whispers about. Jamal scoffs. They already whisper. They just change the reason. Marcus doesn't respond. Across the room, someone turns the music down. Conversation shifts. The room rearranges itself around an unspoken understanding. Jamal says quietly, You didn't do anything wrong. I know. That doesn't always help, Jamal says. Marcus slings the bag over his shoulder and leaves. The sports therapist's office smells like eucalyptus and rubber mats. Marcus lies on the table, staring at the ceiling while hands work methodically along his calf. You're tense, the therapist says. Training loads high. Not that kind of tense. Marcus closes his eyes. Can we just focus on the muscle? The therapist nods, keeps working. But the pressure feels different today, like every knot is connected to something deeper. Later, alone in his car, Marcus grips the steering wheel a little tighter than necessary when a patrol car passes in the opposite direction. The officer doesn't look at him, doesn't slow down. Marcus's chest still tightens. At home, the television hums softly in the background. Lena sits on the couch scrolling through her phone. You didn't return the reporter's call, she says without looking up. I know. You should. Marcus drops his keys on the counter. I shouldn't. They're already circling, she says. Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. I don't want a headline, Marcus says. I want to run. Lena finally looks at him. You think those things are separate? Marcus opens the fridge. Stares inside. Closes it again. Right now, yes. He stands. Walks closer. What if the story comes out without you? It won't. You sure? She asks. Because stories don't wait for permission. Marcus exhales. I don't need this before trials. Lena's voice hardens. And what happens if this is why you lose? The words hang between them. Marcus looks away. I won't. You don't know that. I've trained my whole life for this, he says. I'm not letting one cop. One system. Lena cuts in. That's the difference. Marcus doesn't reply. The next day, the article drops anyway. Not about him. Not yet. A short piece buried halfway down the local news site. Community raises concerns over repeated late-night stops. No names. No faces. Just patterns. Quotes from anonymous residents. A police spokesperson assuring the public of professionalism. Marcus reads it twice. His phone buzzes. "Coach, come by my office." Marcus arrives to find Coach Reynolds sitting behind his desk, tablet in hand. "You see this?" Coach asks. "Yes. They're fishing," Coach says. "That's what media does." Marcus nods. Coach leans back. "But here's the thing. You're not just an athlete. You're visible." Marcus stiffens. "I didn't ask for this." "No," Coach agrees. "But you don't get to opt out either." Marcus's voice drops. "If I speak, it becomes my whole story." Coach looks at him steadily. "Only if you let it." Silence. Coach continues. "You've always believed running was about control. About mastering variables." Marcus nods slowly. Coach taps the desk. "This is a variable you can't outrun." That night, Marcus goes for a run alone. No stopwatch. No track. Just streets and breathing and the rhythm of his feet against pavement. Car slows as it passes him. He flinches, then steadies himself. He runs harder. Faster. Pushes until his lungs burn and his legs scream. At the end of the block he stops. Hands on knees. Sweat dripping onto concrete. For the first time since the stop, the anger surfaces, sharp and clear. Not wild. Focused. Marcus straightens. Pulls out his phone. Scrolls to the deleted voicemail. Restores it. Listens again. When it ends, he doesn't delete it this time. He stands there under a flickering streetlight, heart racing. Not from fear, but from recognition. The race has already started. And this time, standing still isn't an option. The office is smaller than Marcus expects. No dramatic banners. No slogans on the walls. Just a desk, 2 chairs, and a framed photograph of a civil rights march fading at the edges. The kind of place built for listening, not spectacle. Attorney Nadia Brooks gestures for Marcus to sit. "You can start wherever you want," she says. Marcus exhales. "I was stopped, detained, released. No charges." Nadia nods. "That's the summary version. That's all it was." She studies him. "That's all it was to you. Not to the system." Marcus leans back. "I didn't get beaten. I didn't get arrested." "No," she agrees. "You got catalogued." He frowns. "What does that mean?" Nadia swivels her laptop toward him. A spreadsheet fills the screen. Same officer. Same time window. Same neighborhoods. Same outcome. Marcus scans the rows. Locations. Ages. No charges. No charges. No charges. "How many?" Marcus asks. 14 in the last 18 months. Marcus swallows. "And complaints?" 6. All dismissed. "Why?" Nadia closes the laptop. "Because the reports are clean." Marcus shakes his head. "They cuffed me." "Temporarily detained," she corrects. "Language matters. Paper decides truth." Marcus laughs once. Darp. "So it didn't happen." "It happened," she says. "It just didn't count." Silence settles between them. Nadia continues. "This is how patterns survive. Each incident isolated. Each person told theirs wasn't serious enough." Marcus rubs his hands together. "What would a complaint even do?" She answers without hesitation. "Add weight. That's it. Not justice." She meets his eyes. "Justice comes later. If it comes at all." Marcus nods slowly. Outside, Marcus calls Lena. "They knew," he says. "They all knew." "I told you," she replies. No satisfaction in her voice. Just exhaustion. "They keep doing it because nothing sticks." "Yes." Marcus stops walking. "Then why bother?" Lena pauses. Because patterns only break when they're visible. He looks up at the sky. Ray. Low. Pressing down. I don't want to be the example, Marcus says. No one does, Lena says. That's why they get away with it. The footage appears 2 days later. Grainy. Crooked. Shot from across the street. But clear enough. Marcus standing at the hood of his car. Hands spread. The officer's voice audible. Commanding. The cuffs visible. The second patrol car pulling in. Someone uploads it. Someone shares it. Someone captions it. By evening, Marcus's phone won't stop vibrating. Coach calls first. You see it? Yes. It's everywhere. I know. Coach exhales. We'll handle the schedule. Media requests are coming. Marcus closes his eyes. I didn't want this. Coach's voice is steady. I know. But this isn't about want anymore. The department issues a statement before midnight. The officer acted within protocol. No misconduct occurred. Marcus reads it 3 times. Protocol. He watches the video again. Notices details he missed before. The way the officer positions his body. The phrasing of commands. The pauses. Calculated, not uncertain. This wasn't improvisation. This was training. Nadia calls the next morning. They're circling the wagons, she says. As expected. What happens now? Now it becomes about credibility. Marcus scoffs. Mine or theirs? Yes, Nadia says. She explains the process. Internal review. Administrative leave. No admission of wrongdoing. Months of delay. And the officer? Marcus asks. He'll say he feared for his safety. Marcus's jaw tightens. From what? Nadia doesn't answer immediately. When she does, her voice is flat. From you. Marcus lets that sink in. Practice, the mood has changed. Whispers trail him. Not hostile. Careful. People unsure what to say. Jamal approaches. You good? Marcus nods. As good as it gets. You didn't have to do this alone, Jamal says. I wasn't planning to do it at all. Jamal gestures around them. Too late. The backlash comes fast. Online comments split into familiar camps. Some call Marcus brave. Others call him a liar. Provocateur. Threat. One comment sticks. Why was he out so late? Marcus stares at the screen. Feels something harden inside him. That evening, Marcus sits across from Nadia again. You can still walk away, she says. Let the story run its course. Marcus thinks of the spreadsheet. The rows. The repetition. If I walk, he says, nothing changes. Not. That's usually the calculation. Marcus straightens. What if I don't? Nadia's eyes sharpen. Then this stops being about a stop. Good, Marcus says. A week later, the officer is placed on administrative leave. No press conference. No apology. Just a memo. Marcus reads it in the locker room. And steady. Jamal claps him on the shoulder. That's something. Marcus nods. It's a start. But he knows better now. Patterns don't break easily. They resist. And as he laces up his shoes, preparing for another run, Marcus understands the cost of visibility. Once you see the system clearly, you can't unsee it. And once the system sees you back, it doesn't forget. The first interview airs without him. Marcus watches it alone in his apartment, volume low, sitting on the edge of the couch like he's waiting for instructions that never come. A local anchor's voice fills the room. Smooth, serious, controlled. Community members are raising concerns after video surfaced of a late-night traffic stop involving an unnamed black man. The footage rolls. Blurred face. Crop frame. Cuffs. Commands. Then the police spokesperson appears. Uniform crisp. Posture confident. Our officers acted according to established safety protocols. No misconduct has been identified. Marcus turns the TV off. The silence afterward feels louder than the broadcast. His phone lights up again. Messages stacked on messages. Unknown numbers. Media request. Statements written by people who have never met him. Lena texts. They're using your body but not your voice. Marcus stares at the words. Types back. Deletes. Types again. No. By morning the story has a headline. Video shows police detaining black man during traffic stop. No name. No context. Just implication. At the training facility, a PR representative Marcus has never spoken to before waits outside the locker room. She introduces herself quickly. Efficiently. We need to manage this carefully, she says. Marcus nods. Manage what? Perception. Coach Reynolds stands nearby, arms crossed. Silent. The representative continues. You have trials coming up. We don't want distractions. Marcus looks at her. I didn't create this. Of course not, she says quickly. But attention has momentum. We need to be strategic. Strategic. Another clean word. What does that mean? Marcus asks. It means waiting, she says. Letting things cool down. And if they don't? He hesitates. Then we reassess. Marcus looks at Coach. Coach meets his gaze but doesn't intervene. Marcus nods once. I'm going to train. He walks past them. The journalist calls again. Jordan Klein's voice is calm, measured. I don't want a soundbite, Jordan says. I want context. Marcus leans against the kitchen counter, phone pressed to his ear. Context doesn't protect you, Marcus replies. No, Jordan agrees. But it protects the truth. Marcus closes his eyes. The apartment feels smaller than usual. What happens if I talk? Marcus asks. Jordan answers immediately. They can't pretend they don't know who you are. And if I don't? They'll decide who you are for you. Silence. Jordan adds. I can wait. But the story won't. Marcus ends the call without committing. That afternoon Nadia calls. They're shaping the narrative, she says. Slowly. Safely. For them, Marcus says. Yes. Marcus sits at the table, fingers tapping once, twice, then still. They're saying protocol, Marcus says. They're saying safety. Nadia exhales. They always do. Marcus's voice hardens. Then I need to say something. Nadia pauses. That will change everything. It already has, Marcus says. The article drops the next day. This time his name is there. Olympic trials contender detained in late-night police stop. Marcus reads it once. Then again. His training history. His rankings. His medals. All laid out. Not as achievement but as contrast. Proof that he didn't fit the assumption. Online reaction explodes. Some celebrate him. Some doubt him. Some accuse him of using his status. One comment repeats everywhere. If he was really important they wouldn't have stopped him. Marcus feels something twist in his chest. So that's the rule. The department responds within hours. A new statement. Slightly revised. We were unaware of the individual's athletic status at the time of the stop. Marcus reads it aloud once. Slowly. Unaware. As if that's the point. Lena reads it too. So now it's ignorance instead of suspicion. Marcus nods. Progress. She doesn't laugh. Practice. Cameras wait outside the gates. Marcus pulls his hood up. Keeps walking. Someone calls his name. Marcus. Do you feel vindicated now that people know who you are? He stops. Turns. I was the same person before they knew, he says. The questioner blinks. Unprepared. Marcus walks away. That evening, Marcus finally agrees to sit down with Jordan. No cameras. Just audio. Jordan places the recorder on the table. You can stop anytime. Marcus nods. Jordan asks. What do you remember most? Marcus doesn't answer immediately. When he does, his voice is steady. The laugh, he says. When I said I was an athlete. Jordan waits. It wasn't disbelief, Marcus continues. It was permission. Like that one sound gave him the right to do whatever came next. Jordan says quietly. And now? Now, Marcus says. People think this ends because they know my name. Jordan nods. Does it? No, Marcus says. It just explains why I survived it. The interview airs 2 days later. Clip. Shared. Amplified. Marcus's face everywhere now. His voice controlled. His words precise. The officer's name starts circulating too. Old complaints resurface. Screenshots. The department announces an internal investigation. Administrative language. No urgency. Marcus watches the announcement on his phone while stretching before practice. Jamal sits beside him. You did that. Marcus shakes his head. I didn't. Jamal shrugs. You lit the match. Late that night, Marcus scrolls through messages. Support. Fear disguised as advice. One message stands out. Anonymous. They only care because you're fast. Marcus stares at it for a long time. Then he locks the phone. Across the city, the officer watches the same interview. His living room is dim. The TV light flickers across his face. He leans forward when Marcus speaks. Frowns. Rewinds. Watches again. When the anchor says Olympic contender, the officer freezes. Recognition dawns. Slow, uncomfortable. Not remorse. Calculation. He turns the TV off. Back in his apartment, Marcus lays out his race shoes on the floor. Lines them up carefully. Ritual. Control. Tomorrow is a meet. Smaller than trials. Still televised. He ties the laces slowly. Methodically. Side a siren passes. He doesn't flinch this time. The exposure has changed something. Not the system. Because now, when they look at him, they don't see a body first. They see a record. And Marcus understands the danger of that kind of visibility. Doesn't make you safe. Just makes you legible. And legible people are easier to manage. The stadium hums before it roars. Marcus stands in lane 4, spikes biting into the track, the smell of rubber and sweat hanging thick in the evening air. Floodlights bleach the sky white. The crowd is restless. Not electric yet, but awake. Cameras glide along the rails, hungry for faces. He rolls his shoulders once. This race isn't the trials. Not the Olympics. But it's televised. Counts. And tonight it's crowded with meaning. Set. Marcus drops into position. Fingers steady. Breath locked. For a brief moment the noise disappears. The gun cracks. Marcus launches forward. Body snapping into motion like it's been waiting all week for permission. The first curve feels clean. Familiar. His legs remember what his mind almost forgot. By the back stretch, the crowd begins to rise. The announcer's voice cuts through the air. Lane 4, Marcus Hale, pushing hard out of the curve. Marcus doesn't hear the rest. He doesn't need to. He hits the final straight with fury coiled into control. Each step lands with precision. Not anger. Not fear. Focus sharpened by pressure. He crosses the line first. The roar finally arrives. Marcus slows, hands on hips, chest heaving. Sweat streaks down his face. The scoreboard flashes. First still. He looks up at the stands. Sees phones raised. Faces lit. Not all of them cheering, some studying him, reassessing. The camera finds him. Lingers. The announcer continues, voice louder now. That's Marcus Hale, one of the country's top Olympic contenders, making a strong statement tonight. Olympic. The word echoes outward. Across the city, the officer hears it too. He's at home, dinner half eaten, television on more out of habit than interest. The race plays in the background. He barely looks up until the name hits. Marcus Hale. The officer freezes. The screen shows Marcus slowing down, sweat-soaked, powerful, unmistakable. The caption beneath his image reads, Olympic trials favorite. The officer leans forward. Quint. Recognition settles in, heavy and undeniable. That's him, he mutters. The man from the stop. The one who said he was an athlete. The officer's jaw tightens. His mind races, not with guilt but recalibration. He reaches for the remote. Turns the volume up. Back at the stadium, a microphone is already in Marcus's face. "How does it feel to win after everything this week?" a reporter asks. Marcus takes a breath. "It feels like running," he says. "Which is what I came here to do." "But does this victory feel different?" another voice presses. "Given the police incident." Marcus looks directly at the camera. The crowd quiets slightly. "I ran the same race before anyone knew my name," he says. "This just makes it visible." The interviewer hesitates. Visible how? Marcus doesn't raise his voice. Doesn't dramatize. "That the assumptions were wrong," he says. "And they always are." The clip spreads before the night ends. By morning the headline has shifted. "Olympic champion detained in traffic stop." The word champion is premature. Technically inaccurate. But powerful. Marcus reads it while eating breakfast. Sets the phone down carefully. Lena watches him. "They're rewriting you." "They were always going to," Marcus says. "Does it bother you?" Marcus considers. "It bothers me that it took this." The department releases another statement. Longer this time. More careful. In light of recent information, the department is reviewing the incident to ensure all protocols were properly followed. Marcus reads it twice. Recent information. As if the only new data is his resume. Nadia calls 10 minutes later. "They escalated the investigation. Because of the race." "Yes." Marcus closes his eyes briefly. "Not because of the cuffs." "No," Nadia says. "Because of the cameras." At practice, the mood has shifted again. Now there's admiration. Pride. People slapping his back. Calling him legend like the word fixes something. Marcus nods through it. Accepts the congratulations. Keeps moving. Jamal walks beside him. "Crazy how fast it changes, huh?" Marcus doesn't smile. It didn't change. It clarified. Jamal studies him. "You okay?" "I'm winning," Marcus says. "That's not the same thing." That afternoon, Marcus sits in a conference room across from officials he's never met. Legal representatives. Sponsors. Advisors. A man in a suit speaks carefully. "Your image matters now more than ever." Marcus folds his hands. "It mattered before." The man nods politely, missing the point. Another woman adds, "There's an opportunity here. To be a symbol." Marcus looks at her. "For what?" She hesitates. "Progress." Marcus exhales. Progress would have been not needing this room. Silence. Someone clears their throat. "We're just trying to protect you." Marcus stands. "Then protect the next person who doesn't run fast enough to matter." He leaves before anyone responds. That night, Marcus watches the race replay alone. Not for the win, for the moment after. The cameras. The words. The shift. He pauses the screen on his own face. He looks calm. He knows better. Across town, the officer sits in his car in the station parking lot, engine off. The internal affairs email sits unread on his phone. He replays the stop in his mind. The laugh. The dismissal. "Sure you are." He understands now what that moment cost him. Not because Marcus was important, but because Marcus became undeniable. The next day, the department announces the officer has been suspended pending investigation. The headline spreads quickly. People celebrate. Marcus doesn't. He reads the notice once, then closes it. Lena watches him. "You won." Marcus shakes his head. "I was believed." She nods slowly. "That shouldn't be a prize," he adds. At sunset, Marcus returns to the track alone. No cameras. No crowd. He jogs slowly, feeling the surface beneath his feet. Familiar. Honest. He stops at the finish line. Looks down. This line has never asked his name. Never asked his status. Only demanded effort. Marcus breathes deeply. The world beyond the track is louder now. Watching him. Measuring him. But here, in this quiet stretch of rubber and fading light, he understands the truth with clarity. They didn't stop him because they didn't know who he was. They stopped him because they thought they did. And now that they've learned differently, the system is adjusting, not apologizing, learning how to recognize him, and deciding what to do next. The suspension isn't justice. Marcus understands that immediately. The headline scrolls past on his phone while he sits in the passenger seat of Lena's car, traffic crawling forward in tight, irritated bursts. Officer placed on administrative suspension pending investigation. Pending. Administrative. Suspension. Words that sound heavy but land light. They're celebrating online, Lena says, eyes on the road. Like it's over. Marcus locks the phone and sets it face down. It's not. Lena nods. I know. The car moves again. Moves. The city feels restless, like it's holding its breath. At the department the mood is defensive. Nadia briefs Marcus in clipped sentences. Legal language stripped of emotion. No admission of wrongdoing. Paid suspension. Union representation. So nothing actually happened, Marcus says. Something happened, Nadia replies. Just not to him. Yet. Marcus leans back in the chair. What about the other stops? They're being reviewed. By who? The same system that cleared them before. Marcus smiles without humor. The officer doesn't speak publicly. No apology. No statement. Just silence, strategic and protected. Marcus imagines him at home, waiting. Telling himself the same story over and over. That he followed procedure. That nothing he did was personal. That Marcus is the exception. At practice the cameras are gone but the weight remains. Coach Reynolds watches Marcus run, stopwatch steady, eyes sharper than usual. You're back on pace, Coach says after the final rep. Marcus nods. Running's easier. Coach studies him. Everything else. Marcus shrugs. Still loud. Coach pockets the watch. That doesn't fade on its own. I know. Coach hesitates, then says, You don't have to carry this alone. Marcus looks at him. I already am. The civil complaint moves forward. Nadia explains the timeline. Month. Depositions. Motions. It'll be slow, she says. Intentionally. Marcus signs where she points. His name flows easily now. He's signed it everywhere lately. What happens to him if we win? Marcus asks. Nadia pauses. Best case. Termination. And after that? She exhales. He gets hired somewhere else. Quieter. Less scrutiny. Marcus leans back. So the pattern survives. Nadia doesn't disagree. Online the narrative fractures. Some call Marcus a hero. Some call him opportunistic. Some call him dangerous. One opinion piece goes viral. If the officer didn't know who Marcus Hale was, how can we blame him? Marcus reads it twice. Slowly. Ignorance as defense. He closes the article. At home Marcus can't sleep. He lies on his back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the city breathe through the open window. Sirens. Engines. Voices drifting up from the street. His phone buzzes. Unknown number. He lets it ring. Then stops it. Another notification replaces it. Message. No name. You ruined his life. Marcus stares at the screen. Deletes it. Another message appears minutes later. He has a family. Marcus turns the phone off. The next morning, Marcus is asked to testify before a civilian review board. The room is long and sterile. Microphones. Nameplates. Faces arranged in neutral concern. A woman at the center clears her throat. Mr. Hale, do you believe the officer acted with racial bias? Marcus doesn't answer immediately. I believe, he says carefully, that the system trained him to see me as a threat before he saw me as a person. The room shifts slightly. Another board member leans forward. Do you believe his actions were malicious? Marcus considers. I believe they were practiced. Murmurs ripple. The chairwoman nods. Thank you. No follow-up. No acknowledgement. Procedure complete. Outside reporters wait. One calls out. Marcus, do you feel justice is being served? Marcus stops. Turns. I feel the system is responding, he says. That's not the same thing. Another voice asks. Do you forgive the officer? Marcus exhales. That's not my role. He walks away. Days pass. The investigation stretches. The department releases updates that say nothing. Carefully balanced sentences designed to offend no one with power. Marcus trains. Leap. Repeats. The Olympics loom closer now. Trials weeks away. Pressure builds not just to perform but to represent. Sponsors reach out. Some quietly back away. One email stands out. We admire your resilience, but we're concerned about long-term brand alignment. Marcus deletes it. One evening, Jamal sits beside him in the locker room. You ever think about quitting? Jamal asks quietly. Marcus looks at him. Running. Everything else. Marcus considers. Every day. Jamal nods. What stops you? Marcus ties his shoes. Pulls tight. The idea that silence is what they expect. The officer resigns 2 weeks later. No announcement. Just a line in a local article. Officer submits resignation amid ongoing investigation. Marcus reads it on his phone after practice. That's it, he says aloud. Lena reads over his shoulder. That's it. No firing. No admission. No accountability. Just exit. Marcus feels the familiar twist in his chest. Disappointment mixed with clarity. The system didn't correct itself. It rerouted. That night Marcus runs alone again. Not fast. Not far. Just enough to feel the ground. He thinks about the spreadsheet. The 14 stops. The 6 complaints. The silence between them. He understands now that consequences in systems like this aren't about punishment. They're about containment. Keeping damage localized. Keeping patterns intact. At the next meet, Marcus finishes second. The crowd still cheers. The commentators still praise him. But Marcus feels the difference. He's not just racing opponents anymore. He's racing expectation. Narrative. Symbolism he never volunteered for. After the race, a young boy approaches him, hesitant. Can I get a picture? The boy asks. Marcus nods. Kneels to the boy's level. The boy whispers. My dad said you're brave. Marcus looks at him. I just kept going. The boy smiles. That's enough. Later, alone in the locker room, Marcus sits with his head bowed. The officer is gone. The system stands. Justice came close. Close enough to touch, not close enough to hold. Marcus exhales slowly. He understands something now, with a clarity that hurts. The cost of speaking isn't paid once. It's paid daily. In fragments. In opportunities altered. In quiet consequences no headline tracks. And still, despite all of it, Marcus knows he'd do it again. Because the only thing worse than being targeted by a system like this is surviving it. And pretending you weren't. The trials arrive without ceremony. No dramatic music. No sense of closure. Just another morning where the sun rises and the weight comes with it. Marcus stands outside the stadium early, jacket zipped, hands tucked into the pockets. The building looms ahead, concrete and glass, indifferent to stories. Volunteers move equipment. Officials checklist. Everything runs on schedule. The world doesn't pause for justice. Inside the air is colder. Sharper. Marcus changes quietly, moving through his routine with deliberate care. Shoes aligned. Laces straightened. Bikes checked twice. Coach Reynolds watches from a few feet away. Says nothing. They don't need to talk today. The warm-up track buzzes with energy. Bodies in motion. Familiar faces. Rivals who nod once in acknowledgement, then look away. Marcus moves through drills methodically. Knees up. Stride smooth. Breath steady. His body feels ready. His mind is quieter than he expects. Not empty. Just settled. The announcer's voice echoes through the stadium, calling heats, names blending together. When Marcus's name is called, it lands differently now. Recognized. Weighted. Loaded with expectations that didn't exist months ago. He steps onto the track. Lane 4 again. He takes it as coincidence. Refuses to read meaning into it. In the stands, Lena sits beside Jamal and Coach. Phones are out but not recording, just waiting. Nervous energy ripples through the crowd. Some people cheer when Marcus is announced. Some clap politely. Some stay quiet, studying him the way people study symbols to see if they still hold. Marcus blocks it out. He lowers himself into the blocks. Down. Head lowered. This moment belongs to no one else. Set. The world narrows. The gun fires. Marcus explodes forward, power clean and sharp. The first curve comes fast. He leans into it, trusting muscle memory carved by years of repetition. The second curve burns. His lungs scream. His legs demand more. By the final straight, 2 runners are beside him. Marcus digs deeper. Not into anger. Not into fear. Into resolve. He crosses the line. Stumbles once. Regains balance. Looks up. The board flickers. Qualified. Not first. Not last. Enough. Marcus bends at the waist, hands on knees, breathing hard. Relief washes through him. Not joy, not triumph. Release. He did what he came to do. The cameras find him immediately. A reporter steps forward. Marcus, after everything you've been through, how does it feel to qualify? Marcus straightens slowly. Sweat drips from his chin. His chest still heaves. It feels like finishing a race, he says. Not ending a story. The reporter presses. Do you feel vindicated? Marcus looks directly into the lens. No, he says. I feel honest. That night the headlines are kinder. Marcus Hale qualifies for Olympics amid turbulent year. The tone has shifted. Less accusation. More admiration. Marcus reads them once. Then closes the apps. At home, Lena cooks while he sits at the table, quiet. You okay? She asks. Yes, Marcus says. Then corrects himself. I'm steady. Not. That's new. Marcus smiles faintly. Days later, the final decision comes. The internal investigation concludes. Policy violations identified. Officer resignation accepted. Case closed. No apology. No reform announced. No commitment beyond training reviews and community listening sessions. Marcus reads the report with Nadia. That's it, he asks. That's it, she says. Marcus leans back. Lets the chair creak. So nothing really changed. Nadia closes the folder. Something changed. What? Documentation, she says. Precedent. Visibility. Marcus exhales. That feels small. It is, Nadia agrees. But systems only move in inches. Marcus nods slowly. Before leaving for the Olympic training camp, Marcus visits the track one last time at night. Quiet. The floodlights are off. Only the moon outlines the lanes faintly. He jogs a slow lap. Then another. No stopwatch. No audience. Just movement. At the far curve he stops. Looks down at the painted line beneath his feet. He thinks about the stop. The cuffs. The laugh. The months that followed. He understands now that what he lost isn't measurable. It won't show up on a medal count or a highlight reel. He lost innocence. The belief that excellence alone could protect him. In its place, he gained something heavier. Clarity. At the airport the next morning, a man approaches him hesitantly. Middle-aged, nervous smile. My son runs track, the man says. He saw you on TV. Marcus nods. That's good. The man swallows. He asked me if being fast makes you safe. Marcus pauses. It helps, he says. But what really matters is knowing your worth even when it doesn't. The man nods slowly. Thank you. On the plane, Marcus looks out the window as the city shrinks below him. Streets becoming lines. Cars becoming dots. Somewhere down there the system continues. Stops happen. Names go unrecorded. Lives move forward anyway. Marcus closes his eyes. He isn't healed. He isn't whole. But he is moving. And that matters. Weeks later, in another country, under another sky, Marcus steps onto another track. Different flags. Same rules. The gun will fire. He will run. Not to prove who he is, but because running remains the one space where his body answers only to him. Where effort still means something. Where the finish line is honest. As he lowers into the blocks, Marcus understands the final truth of what happened to him. The officer didn't create his strength. The system didn't define it. They only revealed how necessary it already was. Set. Marcus breathes in. And when the gun fires, he runs. Not away from the past, not toward forgiveness, but forward, carrying the weight, and refusing to let it decide the distance. The medal ceremony is brief, efficient, controlled. Flags rise. Applause swells, then fades. Cameras capture smiles that last just long enough to be useful. Marcus stands on the podium, bronze hanging against his chest. It's warm from his skin, heavier than he expected. Not disappointment, not pride, just wait. When it's over, officials usher them away. Schedules resume. Fleets disperse. History moves on. Back in the village, Marcus sits alone on the edge of his bed, medal resting in his open palm. The room is quiet except for distant laughter drifting in from the hall. Someone celebrating. Someone else's moment. He turns the medal over. Reads his name etched cleanly into metal. Earned. Undeniable. And still his chest tightens. Not from loss but from memory. Because even here, at the highest level, the question hasn't disappeared. It's only quieter. His phone buzzes. A message from Jamal. Proud of you. You showed them. Marcus types back slowly. I showed myself. He sets the phone aside. The interview circuit begins the next morning. Different accents. Different networks. Same questions reshaped for new audiences. How does it feel to stand here after everything you endured? Do you believe sports can change society? Are you at peace now? Marcus answers carefully. He speaks about discipline. About preparation. About focus. He avoids the word healing. Because healing suggests something ended. This hasn't. Later that day, Marcus wanders outside the complex alone. No cameras. No handlers. Just streets unfamiliar enough to feel anonymous. He stops at a small cafe. Orders coffee. The barista doesn't recognize him. Doesn't care. For the first time in months, Marcus feels invisible again. It's a relief. And a warning. Back home weeks later, the neighborhood looks the same. Same cracked sidewalks. Same corner store. Same patrol cars idling at intersections. Marcus parks his car and sits for a moment before getting out. He watches an officer stop a young man across the street. Routine. Hands on the hood. Questions asked. Marcus's jaw tightens. He doesn't intervene. He can't. The young man is released. No cuffs. No escalation. The officer drives off. Marcus exhales slowly. Survival isn't justice. But it counts. At a community forum, Marcus is invited to speak. He stands at the podium, lights hot against his face. The room is full. Expectant. They want inspiration. They want resolution. Marcus gives them neither. I didn't become brave, he says. I became aware. Murmurs ripple. I learned that systems don't change because one story breaks through, he continues. They change when pressure stays consistent after the cameras leave. Silence settles. A woman in the front row raises her hand. Do you still trust the police? Marcus pauses. I trust patterns, he says. And patterns earn trust slowly. Nod. Some bristle. That's fine. Afterward, a teenage runner approaches him. Nobody ever asks me what lane I want, the kid says. They just tell me where to go. Marcus smiles faintly. That doesn't change. So what do you do? Marcus considers. You run anyway. And you remember. That night, Marcus sits on his porch, watching the streetlights blink on one by one. Lena joins him, 2 cups of tea in hand. You okay? She asks. Marcus nods. Different. She hands him a cup. That stays. They sit in silence. After a while, Lena says, "People think this story has an ending." Marcus watches a car pass slowly. It has chapters. She leans her head against his shoulder. "You tired?" "Yes," Marcus says. "But not done." Weeks pass. The news cycle moves on. Another incident replaces his. Another name trends. Marcus trains, coaches, speaks when asked, declines when he can. He learns the rhythm of carrying visibility without letting it hollow him out. Some days it almost works. One evening, Marcus finds an envelope slipped under his door. No return address. Inside is a handwritten note. "I saw what happened to you. Happened to me too. I didn't think anyone would believe me. Thank you for staying visible." Marcus reads it twice. Sits down. Lets the weight press into his chest. This is the part no medal represents. Months later, Marcus is invited to help redesign a youth athletics program. Policy meetings. Long tables. Slow progress. He speaks up when he needs to. Listens when he should. Pushes back when language gets slippery. He's learning that change is tedious work. Uncelebrated. Necessary. Late one night, Marcus returns to the track alone. Same one he trained on years ago. The gate is unlocked. The field empty. He jogs lightly, letting his body settle into motion. At the far end, he stops and looks back down the lane. This place holds every version of him. The hopeful kid. The disciplined athlete. The man on the hood of a car. The runner on a podium. All of them still here. Marcus understands now that the weight never leaves. You don't outrun it. You condition yourself to carry it. He breathes in, breathes out, and starts running again. Not because he believes the world is fair. Not because the system changed. But because movement, honest movement, is how he refuses to disappear. And as his feet strike the track, steady and sure, Marcus knows this much with certainty. The finish line was never the point. Staying human was. And that race, at one, he's still running. The invitation arrives quietly. No press release. No announcement. Just an email forwarded twice before it reaches Marcus. A request to attend a closed-door meeting on policy reform and community trust. The language is careful, non-committal, designed to sound important without promising consequence. Marcus reads it once. Then again. He doesn't feel honored. He feels measured. The room is larger than Nadia's office. Polished wood table. Bottled water lined up evenly. People in suits who introduce themselves with titles first, names second. Marcus sits near the middle. Not at the head. Not at the edge. Placed. A man clears his throat. "We appreciate you being here." Marcus nods. Says nothing. Another woman speaks. "Your experience has highlighted areas where improvement may be necessary." Marcus watches how often the word appears. They talk about training modules, body cameras, listening sessions, metrics. No one says fear. No one says power. No one says race without cushioning it in language so soft it almost disappears. Marcus waits. Eventually someone turns to him. "What do you think?" The room stills. Marcus folds his hands on the table. "I think you're asking the wrong question." Several heads tilt. "You shouldn't be asking what I think," he continues. "You should be asking why this keeps happening to people without medals." Silence stretches. A man near the end of the table shifts. "We're trying to be proactive." Marcus nods. "Then be precise." The woman who invited him asks carefully, "What would precision look like to you?" Marcus meets her eyes. "Stop treating harm like a misunderstanding. Start treating it like a predictable outcome." The room absorbs this without responding. He recognizes the look now. Processing without commitment. After the meeting, Nadia walks beside him down the hallway. "You didn't soften anything," she says. Marcus exhales. "I wasn't invited to." She smiles faintly. "They'll quote you selectively. They always do. And they'll implement half of something," she adds. Marcus stops near the exit. Half is still more than zero. Nadia studies him. You're learning how to survive institutions. Marcus pushes the door open. I'm learning how not to disappear inside them. Life settles into a different rhythm. Marcus trains, but not with the same singular hunger. He still competes, still wins sometimes, loses others. But he also mentors, shows up at high schools, community tracks, places without sponsorship banners. He listens more than he talks. He hears the same stories told in different voices. Late night stops, assumptions, silence afterward, patterns. One afternoon, a young woman asks him, "Does it ever stop feeling like you're being watched?" Marcus thinks before answering. "No," he says. "But you learn which eyes matter." He nods, writes it down. Months later, Marcus is asked to testify again. This time the room is fuller. The questions sharper, less polite. Progress such as it is. A council member asks, "Do you believe the changes we've made would have prevented your stop?" Marcus answers honestly, "No." The council member presses. "Then what was the point?" Marcus looks around the room. "The point is to make the next one harder to justify." Outside, a reporter asks, "Do you consider yourself an activist now?" Marcus shakes his head. "I consider myself informed." "Isn't that the same thing?" "No," Marcus says. "Activism implies choice. Awareness is a consequence." That night, Marcus runs later than usual. The streets are quiet. Streetlights hum. His breath fogs faintly in the air. Patrol car passes him slowly. Doesn't stop. Marcus keeps running. Not relieved. Not grateful. Just aware. At home, Lena waits up, scrolling through her phone. "You're different," she says. Marcus sits beside her. "I know. Better." Marcus considers. "More accurate." He nods. That lasts. The story fades from national memory. The stories always do. Marcus's name still surfaces occasionally. In articles, panels, highlight reels. But the weight of expectation has redistributed itself. He no longer carries it alone. Others have picked it up. That matters. Years later, Marcus stands at a small local meet, stopwatch in hand. A teenager crouches in the blocks, nervous energy vibrating through his frame. "You ready?" Marcus asks. The kid nods. Follows. "I think so." Marcus leans closer. "Whatever happens," he says quietly, "remember who you are before anyone else decides." The kid nods again. The gun fires. The race begins. Marcus watches closely. Not the time. Not the placement. The form. The effort. The way the kid keeps running even when the race stretches longer than expected. Marcus smiles. This is how things continue. Not in grand reversals. Not in clean endings. But in transfer. That evening, Marcus walks the track alone one last time. He's older now. Slower. But steadier. He knows the truth with clarity that no longer hurts. The system did not break because of him. It adjusted. And so did he. But adjustment isn't surrender. It's survival with intention. Marcus stops at the finish line. Looks down at the paint worn thin by years of use. He places one foot on either side of it. Not crossing. Not retreating. Just standing there. Present. Because the story never needed an ending. Needed continuation. And Marcus, breathing evenly under a darkening sky, understands his role now with certainty. Not to be the exception. Not to be the symbol. But to remain. Visible enough to matter. Human enough to resist erasure. And strong enough to keep moving. Even when the world pretends the race is already over.